My name is Paynii or Jay, and today I want to talk about house rules for Dungeons and Dragons that you can use to make the game a bit more fun for your players and yourself. As I just said, today I would like to talk a bit about house rules that a lot of DMs out there, myself included, use to make the Dungeons and Dragons system a little more fun. Maybe a little better, even. Obviously, that is to each their own. I'm just here to introduce some to you, and I hope you can implement them well into your game. So, here we go. Number one. One of the most common house rules out there has to do with health potions. Of course, health potions are great, everyone loves getting health potions. They are useful in many situations. However, in my opinion, they slow down combat because most players would like to use their action to do something more impactful than just drinking a health potion and passing their turn on to the next person. Though I have to agree, it makes sense. It is really hard to take out a potion from your backpack, uncork the bottle, and down the whole thing within 6 seconds and still do something else. But mechanically, I think it is very unfun, which is why I and many DMs agreed that health potions can be used as a bonus action, on which I personally expand on by deciding that when my player wants to use a health potion as a main action, it recovers the full amount that it can roll. So a health potion that would recover 2d4 plus the constitution immediately recovers 8 hit points plus constitution. This helps with the flow of combat and gives the player a fun option, in my opinion. As a little side note, I require a character to use a full action to administer the health potion to another character that is maybe down, for example. So, with these little caveats, it allows my player to still use their high impact action and heal themselves in a dire situation, but it doesn't make it overpowered in terms of getting other people back up from being unconscious. Of course, like I said earlier, most of these house rules are focused on making the game more fun and exciting for players, which is why my number 2 is again focused on players' health pools. I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I personally love rolling for hit points when I can on a level up. It is my gamba nature. I just need to gamble with the dice. I love rolling the dice and see what it brings. But that can feel really shitty when you roll a 1 on your HP gain. We all like rolling dice, that's why we play Dungeons and Dragons. So I personally don't want to take the rolling away from my players by forcing the average so everyone feels good. I instead allow everyone to roll their HP, but no value can be below the average that the class would get if they chose not to roll. For example, if I play a barbarian and I level up, I want to roll my dice, my d12, to see how much HP I get from this level up. I then roll my dice, and at my table I would be unable to roll below a 7, as 7 is the average I would get per level up. This leads to everyone having about average HP or better, which allows me to throw in more fun encounters at the end of the day, and it is a very nice feeling for everyone when they roll their dice and they hit that max roll on HP and get excited about it. And I really don't want to take that feeling away from my players while saving them from the horrible feeling of rolling a 1 as a barbarian. My number 3 initially was talking about crits. However, I decided against this as I have 4 different systems for how to handle critical rolls during combat, and I thought it would be a bit better to make a whole new video about this as it is quite extensive to explain, and I didn't want this lengthy part in the middle of this video. So instead, I would like to talk about my all-time favorite house rule that I have implemented with my players not too long ago, earlier this year. I call this rule the I know a guy rule. When my players are stuck for clues or they need help with items that their classes are unable to use, or they simply don't know where to go next or require a helping hand, they can simply turn to me and tell me, hey, my character knows a guy, to which I gleefully respond, oh really, what's their name? And they have to come up with a name on the spot and introduce these characters to me. If I find their explanation for how their character knows this NPC reasonable, I will introduce this NPC into my world, and they in fact know a guy. I initially wanted this rule because it feels real. Everyone knows people. there really isn't a person out there that doesn't know another person that could help them with a certain thing. Sure, we don't all know someone for everything, but we probably know someone who could help with that. That alone made me feel like that makes characters more alive within your world. Let them have connections that they can make up to you instead of you making up connections for them. They can engage with your world and create it with you. D&D is about collaboration, so I thought this house rule would be perfect to make the players get a little bit of a glimpse behind the DM screen of, so what's that NPC's name, by the way? And you struggling to find a name. Now you can just 180 it, throw it back at them, and they come up with the names from now on. Give it a try. I'm sure your players will at least once during a campaign find a reason to call on a guy they know. My number 4 is all about making situations more dire, creating urgency. I make all my players come behind the DM screen to roll their death saves. The reason for that is that I want the other players to be entirely clueless about the status of the downed person in the middle of combat while they can't really pay too much attention to them in character. They have no idea how close they are to losing one of their comrades, whether or not they succeeded or failed on the death save, and whether or not they have the time to spare another turn before getting them up. Sometimes having to leave behind an enemy taking an opportunity attack just to make sure their ally doesn't lose their character. Because what if they rolled a 1? What if the next turn they fail and it only took 2 turns and it took out their character? Not knowing this creates a sense of urgency, making combat more fluid and a bit more dangerous as well as tactical. Whenever my players are aware of another person succeeding on the first throw for their death save, they tell themselves, oh, it's fine, I have another turn. I can focus on taking down this enemy and then I can go without provoking opportunity attack. And to take away from this safety of, oh, I have another turn, I really want the death saves to be hidden. On top of that, it helps me with a little pet peeve that I have. Personally, I don't like using creatures to attack a downed player to create the sense of urgency with the other players. This house rule allows me to have that sense of urgency without having to target players that are already downed. It just doesn't feel good to attack someone risking their character when they can't react to it. It takes their agency away, while this gives a lot more agency to the other players without being too shitty. My number 5 isn't that big of a house rule, but I personally really enjoy making my campaigns brutal in the sense of difficulty. For that, I make encounters a little harder than they have to be and make environmental circumstances a bit more taxing on their resources. For that sake, I allow them to pick up a trait at level 1 regardless of their race. I don't need them to play variant human to get a free feat. I want them to still engage with their character fantasy boosted by having the extra feat at level 1 already. It makes their character more unique and immediately gets them into their fantasy a bit more than having to wait until level 4, 8 and so on. Of course, I want to add a little cherry on top though. The feat isn't enough for me, so I allow everyone to choose an uncommon magic item from the official source books. For this sake, I don't make my own magic items, I just want them to pick from a list. But if you're curious on how to make the perfect magic item, then I recommend my previous video on it. If you press on the eye in the top right corner, you will find that video. I highly recommend it if you are interested in homebrewing more items for your campaigns. Anyways, back to the uncommon magic item that they pick. Once they reach level 5, I look at the items that they chose and they evolve together with the players. And I repeat this process again at level 8 and around level 11 to 13 depending on how I feel. Making the item more powerful throughout their adventure, growing with them like a personal item. I want them to feel a proper connection to the item just in case I feel like taking it away from them for story reasons. Right, and with that we have reached the end of the video. I hope these 5 house rules seem interesting to you and you get to use them at your table. If you have any other house rules that you recommend to new DMs, please leave them in the comments. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Check out my other stuff, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and have a fantastic time at your table. I'll see you next time. Sure, imagine I'm not recording.